Wow. By many standards of Western civilization, San Francisco is a basket case. And it could be a petri dish microcosm of the larger mess of California itself. And now, despite the city being filled with homelessness and emptied of businesses, the San Francisco United School District is actually considering spending tens of thousands to change the names of schools that might currently be named, yeah, that's right, after controversial figures. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRCTV. Imagine living in a city where Democrat Mayor London Breed pushes shoveling $1,000 per month for 15 months to Pacific Islander and black women who get pregnant and pay them from conception to 6 months after birth. Imagine living in a city where that pro-Planned Parenthood mayor can't keep human excrement off city streets, where deaths of homeless people have skyrocketed, and where more than half of storefronts have closed under her lockdowns. Imagine living in a city where the same mayor, London Breed, announces a $1,000 per month universal basic income program for 130 autists, a handout scheduled to last 6 months beginning early next year. Then, imagine hearing this woman cry foul over her city's public school officials' interest in spending tax cash to rename many of the public schools she and her friendly local bureaucrats and the state Democrat governor she supports mandated to be closed. That's precisely what's happening in San Francisco. As Reason's Bobby Sove reports, Mayor Breed suddenly is identifying with the plight of taxpayers and protesting that the San Francisco United School District is considering spending a lot of money to change the names of schools that might currently be named after controversial figures. The officials in charge of San Francisco's public schools are hard at work, not coming up with a plan to quickly reopen the schools, but to rename as many as 44 of them. To which Mayor Breed, paladin of the taxpayer and parents whose kids remain locked out of the schools that their taxes and the taxes of non-parents fund, responded with this. To hear that the district is focusing energy and resources on renaming schools is offensive. What's that line from Princess Bride? You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. As a reminder of Mayor Breed's fiscal responsibility and revulsion against tax thievery, all you need to do is just rewind a little bit in this video and see some of those things that I've already mentioned. But what sensible person could actually expect a pandering, opportunistic, reality-denying, constitution-trampling politician to actually be consistent on taxation, lockdowns, and political correctness? As Sove notes, San Fran public schools aren't expected to be opened until January, and kids who attend those tax-funded propaganda farms will be stuck at home, absorbing the government-approved ideology via computer. Gary Bigler, creator and host of Nerdrotic on YouTube and creator of Nerdrotic.com, recently described in an incredibly powerful, factual, important video many of the politically imposed factors that have led him and his family to flee California. And one of them is the fact that the San Fran school system is as untenable as the lockdown environment itself, as poisonous as the leftist California tax and spend mentality.
Currently, my child is attending his freshman year of high school on Zoom. He's special needs, he needs extra attention, and that's something else Gavin Newsom hasn't responded to or addressed once. Prior to the lockdown, my wife and I spent a year trying to get our kid out of the California public school system and accepted into a Catholic school, which he was, but it wasn't allowed to reopen. So he's still technically attending a school that gives him projects like writing about white privilege in his creative writing class. But at least he doesn't have to deal with not being able to enter his classroom with the rest of his classmates because they can't remove a homeless guy, which did happen.
And yet, as Jill Tucker reports for the San Francisco Chronicle, the tax-paid bureaucrats debate the names they've already spent tax cash to put onto the schools and whether or not they'll spend more tax cash to remove some of them. A third of San Francisco public schools could see their names changed as officials push to replace inappropriate ones, honoring presidents, writers, generals, and even Senator Dianne Feinstein. Yeah. Even our hero Di-Fi could be a target for removal. El Dorado Elementary came up next for discussion, with board members questioning whether the criteria should apply to a mythological place associated with settlers or colonists. It doesn't even exist. It'd be like having a high school named after Tatooine. Where do you go to school? I go to Yavin High. We used to be on Dantooine, but the school got destroyed.
Dantooine is too remote to make an effective demonstration, but don't worry. We will deal with your rebel friends soon enough.
Di-Fi's name would be removed because when she was San Francisco mayor in 1986, what a lovely time that must have been, she had a new Confederate flag hoisted to replace one that had been defaced by vandals. And then there's not so honest Abe. Abraham Lincoln High is also on the list based on the former president's treatment of American Indian and Native peoples. And heck, there could be many more reasons to oppose slapping Feinstein's name or Lincoln's name or any name on a public school. Not just because some taxpayers think the names are offensive, but because some might think there are other names much more deserving to be put on public schools. Names like Otto von Bismarck, the 19th century Prussian socialist who not only created the model upon which the morally and economically bankrupt collectivist U.S. social security system is based, but also created with the able machination of hyperstatist Johann Gottlieb Fichte, the factory-like public school system upon which U.S. public schools are based. But debating what names are offensive or more deserving actually misses the deeper philosophical and economic points. While these tax hirelings argue and Mayor Breed deflects attention away from her own nutty spending ideas, the moral questions of whether people should be forced to pay for the schools themselves is overlooked. Imagine a bunch of robbers telling you to hand over thousands of dollars or they'll steal your home or business, and then seeing them yell at each other over the ethics of what to do with your violently expropriated stolen cash. Then imagine the added insult of them claiming you not only agreed by not fleeing, and by the way, since when was asking to be left alone and in peace a despicable act, but that you speaking out against being made incapable of deciding how to educate your own child is, as they might say, somehow anti-child. That's the fecal-scented atmosphere of San Francisco, and in fact, all of California, a state recently cited as the least educated through 9th grade in the entire nation. And in fact, it's the mentality of every locality in the U.S. that cherishes tax-funded propaganda mills and the theft that runs them. And that's one of the things that has led people like Gary Bigler to flee San Francisco and California itself. More power to him and to all the others who are departing that awful, awful place. And shame on the politicians in formerly lovely San Francisco who debate the ethics of names they apply to buildings erected on the backs of taxpayers and stolen cash. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. And for those of you who are leaving California, all I can say is please don't bring the California ideology elsewhere in the United States. Just leave it behind. I know many of you won't be doing that, but to that small percentage who might, please, please. I watched what happened from Massachusetts into New Hampshire as I grew up. It was very sad, very sad. Hey, Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, I'll be in there. I'd love to communicate with you, but you got to make sure sometimes people get dropped on their subscriptions. So that's something I want to remind you of. Please like and make sure you're subscribed. Send these videos out to friends, bring them into social media, send them out through emails, show them to people, bring them down to the dinner table, whatever you can do to spread the word. And thank you so much for all the new subscribers out there. I know the numbers have been rising a great deal. Please visit mrctv.org. It's awesome. And if you want some great MRC items, go to MRC-store. For MRC TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.